Okay, now we're down to my last example, and this is a pretty lengthy one because this is the side angle triangles. And this is called the ambiguous case. And it's called the ambiguous case because you can either have one triangle, two triangles, or no triangles at all. So, to determine how many triangles you're going to have, what I like to do is the test, your test questions for each one. So the first test question is if you're going to have one triangle, is side A greater than or equal to side B? If the answer is yes, then you will have one triangle. For two triangles, you have to answer both questions yes. The first question is A, meaning side A, less than side B? If that's true, you say yes. If not, you put no. The next one is H less than A? Alright, so I know you're wondering, what in the world is H? Well, if you look down at the bottom in orange, I have FYI. H is equal to B sine theta. So you would substitute your B sine alpha. So you would substitute your B and your angle alpha into that particular equation or that formula, and then you would get what H is. So you want to see if H is less than A. If it is, then you would say yes. If not, you would say no. If both of the answers to the questions in pink are yes, then you will have two triangles. If one is yes and one is no, then you will not have two triangles. The third case is if you're going to have no triangles, and the test question is A less than H? If that's true, then you have zero triangles. So now I'm going to show you how this is used using three examples. One example is going to have one triangle, another will be two, and the last one will be none. Alright, so this is my solution, my side angle one solution example. So you have to solve this triangle. A equals 3, B equals 2, and alpha is equal to 40 degrees. So the first thing you want to do is draw your triangle. So right here, I drew my triangle. I drew and I labeled it. So I have my 40-degree angle, which is what's given, alpha, beta, and gamma. I have my side A, which is 3, and my side B, which is 2. So first I want to do my test, because here I'm telling you that you have a one solution, so I'm going to show you how the test works. So your test question, which is right here, let me give it another color. If it lets me. If not, okay, so this is my test question right here that I'm highlighting. Is A greater than B? So I substitute A, 3 for A, and 2 for B. Is 3 greater than 2? Why, yes it is. So since it is, that means I'm going to have one triangle. So I don't have to go through to see if there's going to be 2 or 0 triangles, because I already know now that I'm going to have one triangle. So now I'm going to solve for beta. So I'm here. So solving for beta, I list my formulas. Once again, my formula for the law of sines. Sine alpha divided by A equals sine beta divided by B equals sine of, and I guess I got tired of writing gamma, but sine of gamma, let me just write that. I guess I was being lazy. All right, sine of gamma divided by C. All right, so now I set up, I use sine of 40 degrees over 3 because those two values are given to me, alpha and A, is equal to the sine of beta divided by 2. Once I have that, I go up here and I start to solve. 3 sine beta, because 3 times sine beta is equal to 2 times sine of 40 degrees. Then sine beta equals 2 times sine of 40 degrees divided by 3. And sine of beta is approximately equal to 0.43. Now this is the sine of beta. I want beta, the actual angle measurement. So that means that I have to use the inverse sign. So I don't know if you all remember that when you're finding the measure of an angle, you have to use the inverse trig functions. So beta is equal to the inverse sine of 0.43. And then I will put that into my calculator. And I get my answer. Go back right here. Beta is approximately equal to 25.4 degrees. So once I have my beta, now I can find my gamma. So gamma is equal to 180 minus 40 plus 25.4 degrees. So when I do my computation, I get gamma is equal to 114.6 degrees. So now I have my beta and I have my gamma. The last thing I need to find is side C. So this is what I'm going to do right here. So I'm going to use my fraction sine alpha divided by A is equal to sine gamma divided by C. Alright, so then I substitute my values in. Sine of 40 degrees divided by 3 is equal to the sine of 114.6 degrees divided by C. Cross multiply, and I get C times sine of 40 degrees equals 3 times sine of 114.6 degrees. And C is equal to, once I put all of that into my calculator, 4.24. So now I'm finished solving that triangle. On to the next. This time I'm going to have two solutions for my example. So I'm going to solve the triangle A equals 6, B equals 8, and alpha equals 35 degrees. So here I'm going to do my test and answer the two questions. The first one, is A less than B? Is 6 less than 8? Yes. The next one, is H less than A? Well, first, I need to find out what H is. So I'll go here first. H is equal to B sine alpha. B is 8 and alpha is 35. So I substitute that into the formula. I have 8 times the sine of 35 degrees, which is approximately equal to 4.59. So now I can ask my question, is 4.59 less than 6? Why, yes it is. So since I answered yes to both of those questions, that means I'm going to have two triangles. So I'm going to call my triangles alpha, beta 1, gamma 2, and then I have my alpha, beta 2, and gamma 2. So first I'm going to find beta 1. So I think, let me erase this because I don't want to find beta 2 right now. I'm going to find beta 1 first. Alright, so again I have my ratios because I want triangle 1. I have sine alpha over A equals sine beta 1 over B1 equals sine gamma 1 over C1. Because in my triangles, my alpha and my side A will be the same in both the triangles. But my beta, gamma, B, and C will be different. So here I set up my ratios. So I set them up. And the two that I'm going to use will be this right here. And I have it underlined. That's the ratio I'm going to use to find beta 1. So 6 times sine beta 1 equals 8 sine of 35 degrees. So I do all the math just like I did previously. I'm trying to find beta, so I have to use the inverse sign. So I get the inverse sign of 0.76. Once I get that, I put that into my calculator, and I get beta 1 equals 49.9 degrees. Alright, now I'm going to use beta 1 to get my gamma 1 and to also get my C1. So we're doing the same thing again. To find gamma 1, I do 180 minus 49.9 degrees plus 35 degrees. And I get gamma 1 is equal to 95.1 degrees. So that's my gamma 1, just like we did previously. Then I find my C1. I set up my ratios. I cross multiply, and I get C1 is equal to 10.42. Now, even though it seems like I'm going fast, which I kind of am, you still can press pause and look at each screen. I am also going to upload this to my website so that you have access to it whenever you want to, and you can hear my lovely voice all day long. Isn't that great? Don't laugh. Next, I'm going to solve for B2. To find B2 or beta 2, I'm going to subtract beta 1 from 180 degrees. So this is what I'm showing you right here. So B2 or beta 2 is equal to 180 minus beta 1. So I have 180 minus 49.9, which is 130.1 degrees. So here I have my beta 1. So now I'm going to use my beta 1 to get my beta 2 to get my gamma 2. So again, gamma 2 is 180 minus the sum of alpha plus beta 2. So here I show my math again, which I've done previously. And once I get it, I get gamma 2 is equal to 14.9 degrees. Now the last thing I have to get is C2. Alright, so now to find C2, I'm going to do the sine. I'm going to set up my ratio, and I have sine of 35 degrees over 6 equals sine of 95.1 degrees over C2. I do my cross multiplication. I get this, and then I find C2, and C2 is equal to 2.69. Okay, let me go back and check to make sure that I have everything that I need. Yep. And I'm done. All right, so that's my C2. All right, so that's my two triangles. Now, the next example is when you have no triangles. So here you have to solve the triangle that's given to you as A equals 2, C equals 1, and then gamma is equal to 50 degrees. So the test is A less than H? So here, I go down here, and I'm going to solve for H, or I think I am. So I have H is equal to B sine alpha. But when I look up here, I don't have a B, and I don't have an alpha. So I don't know if A is less than H. So we're just going to proceed to solve, because sometimes it doesn't always work out the way we want it to. Life is not always so simple. So it's no big deal. We're going to use what's given, and we're going to find alpha. And you're going to see in a minute why we're going to look for alpha and not beta. So when I set up my ratios, and I have the sine of alpha over 2 equals the sine of beta over b equals the sine of 50 over 1. Notice this fraction has two unknowns, so I really can't use that one. But I can use this one because this one has one known. I have two knowns here with sine of 50 over 1, and I have one unknown here with sine of alpha over 2. So I'm going to use those two to set up my ratios. I'm not going to use the middle. So I have sine of alpha over 2 equals sine of 50 over 1. So I cross multiply, and I get sine of alpha equals 2 sine of 50 degrees. That gives me sine of alpha equals 1.53. Now, if you put that into your calculator and you try to do the inverse sine of 1.53, you're going to get error. And this is why you're going to get error. As you know from graphing sine, sine falls between negative 1 and 1. Is 1.53 between negative 1 and 1? No, it's not. That means it is not possible. All your sine values fall between negative 1 and 1. So since this one is outside of 1, that means that this one does not exist. So there's no triangle. So see, even though we couldn't find our h, we still were able to do the problem by looking at just the sine. So that's good to remember. So take note of that. Now that I've gone over those three examples for the side angle, you have about 20 minutes to do number 25 and number 31. And you can check your answers in the back of the book. Remember, you will never ever learn how to do math. You will never ever learn math if you don't do the math. You have to do the work. So you can sit here and talk and you can copy and think that you're impressing me or Miss Harvey. You're not. We're not impressed. Do the work. Don't forget that you have homework on Edmodo, 5 questions, and you also have an assignment for Pi Day. So please go to my website and read the Pi Day assignment and look at the calendar and see what you have to do because it has a link to the web quest for Pi Day. See you on Friday.